So today we will be looking into the phosphorylation, but before moving to this, we will be looking into the basic concept of nucleotide and nucleoside, right? So let's first look into it. What is nucleoside, right? What is nucleoside? Basically, when the phosphate sugar, like when the ribose sugar, consider this as the ribose sugar and the nitrogenous base. This whole together is known as nucleoside, right? The ribose sugar plus nitrogenous base is known as nucleoside. This nitrogenous base can be anything: adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine, uracil. It can be any one of them, right? Now, what is nucleotide basically? Nucleotide, right? When with this ribose sugar, with this ribose sugar with this ribose sugar, here is the nitrogenous base, right? 3 phosphate are attached. Only phosphate are attached. That is known as nucleotide. What? This is basically the ribose sugar, and this is the nitrogenous base. It can be adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine, any one of them, right? And here, what is this? This is a phosphate group, right? So when ribose sugar combines with nitrogenous base as well as with the phosphate group, that is known as nucleotide. Okay, one thing to remember, that this bond with the bond of last phosphate is a weak bond. A weak bond, and whenever this bond breaks down, it releases high amount of energy. It releases high energy. When this third one bond break down, it forms, like, it releases high amount of energy because it is a weak bond, and obviously, like, this is a third one phosphate, so as the number of phosphate will increase, the energy will also increase, right? So this is the basic concept of nucleotide. I hope the concept of nucleoside and nucleotide is clear to you now. Now let's look at what is phosphorylation. Right? Now, what is phosphorylation? Basically, the addition of inorganic phosphate into the ADP to form ATP. Right? What is phosphorylation? Phosphorylation is basically the addition of inorganic phosphate into the ADP to form ATP. Consider, like, this is the nucleotide ADP. Consider this is the ribose sugar over here, and here we are having the nitrogenous bases, and here this is phosphate number 1, this is phosphate number 2, right? When with this phosphate and other phosphate will join, and it will form, like, here now it is adenosine diphosphate, right now it is adenosine diphosphate, right? Now when this one phosphate will join this, it will form, like, what will be the structure? This is the ribose sugar basically. Here nitrogenous base will be attached, here phosphate number 1, phosphate number 2, and here another phosphate, right? Now this is known as adenosine triphosphate. This is known as ATP. So this addition, like this addition of inorganic, this is known as inorganic. This is known as inorganic. This is known as inorganic phosphate. When this inorganic phosphate is added to this adenosine diphosphate, this is known as phosphorylation, right? So now we are having actually three types of phosphorylation. We are having three types of phosphorylation, right? Number one we are having, which is photophosphorylation. Phosphorylation. Okay, where it happens, actually this photophosphorylation, actually what does this photo means? Photo means sunlight. It means the addition of inorganic phosphate with the help of sunlight, right? Okay, where it will occur? It will occur in PSI 2, right? The ATP will formed from ADP by the help of this sunlight. So this process is known as photophosphorylation. Eventually it will occur in light reaction, right? And this PS2 absorbs 680 nanometer light, right? Now second one we are having, which is, second one is oxidative phosphorylation. Oxidative phosphorylation. So what does that mean? Oxidative means by the help of oxygen. By the help of oxygen, the ATP will be formed. The addition of oxygen will be done by the oxidative phosphorylation, or it also means that something will lose its electron. Like there, the process of oxidation can also be done over here, right? So here, what are the examples in ETC? What is now ETC? Electron transport chain, right? So at electron transport chain, this oxidative phosphorylation takes place in the crystal of mitochondria, right? Crystal of mitochondria, right? Okay, number third, I don't have space over here. Let's write over here. Third one, which is known as substrate phosphorylation, right? Substrate photophosphorylation. Okay, what is substrate now? Basically, okay, for substrate you should know the concept of some basic concept of enzyme. Okay, consider like this is a enzyme, right? This is enzyme, right? Over here something is attached to it, the reactant is attached to this, so that reactant is known as substrate, right? So it means now the phosphate that will be joined to ADP to form ATP will come from substrate. For example, 1,3-biphosphoglysrate. So this is a compound which will be used in the photosynthesis, right? When 1,3-biphosphoglycerate is actually like a substrate in the presence of an enzyme known as kinase, right? So what happened, basically only 3-phosphoglycerate came. What does that mean? What happened over here? Basically here ADP plus inorganic phosphate formed ATP. This side reaction actually took place over here. What happened? This 1,3-biphosphoglycerate is a substrate. Basically, this is the substrate, right? And this kinase is an enzyme. When this substrate attached with this enzyme, a phosphate from this substrate attached to ADP to form ATP. Like for this phosphorylation, for this addition of phosphate, where does the phosphate came from? It came from the substrate. So that's why it is known as substrate phosphorylation. Substrate phosphorylation. And in the last, only 3 phosphoglycerate came back, right? So I hope the concept is clear to you now, the concept of phosphorylation. Now basically, like for example, we are having the sun, right? And we know the only producers in our whole world are plants, right? We have plants as producers. What they use this sunlight, they form basically C6H12O6. They form this glucose. This is glucose basically. And in plant, they store glucose in the form of starch. They store glucose in the form of starch, which is the most this is the storage material, which is the storage material. Which is storage material. Now what will happen when we living organisms will eat these plants, like other organisms? When we will eat this glucose by the process of respiration, like this glucose will be broken down with the process of by the process of respiration. What will happen? ATP will be formed and carbon dioxide will be formed, right? And what are why we require this ATP? Why we need energy? For the process of metabolic activity, so that metabolic activities can take place. Metabolic activities can be taken place, and they can release more amount of energy in order to do work. In order to do every kind of work, we require ATP, and which can be easily generated by metabolic activity. What happens in metabolic activity? Actually, macromolecules are formed. Macromolecules are formed. So basically, they are not energy is not formed, it is transformed. Okay, it will obey the law of thermodynamics. What does that law say? That energy can't be created, now it may be destroyed. It can change from one form to another form. So basically here the energy is transferred, right? So I hope this concept is clear to you. The